A state government sits on its own watchdog's report for 2 years. A federal civil rights office tells Congress one set of numbers. Former staff say the real numbers were different. A Pentagon official signs a divestiture agreement, with an exception built in. Power is always moving. WikiLeaks documents which way. What happened this week that made power easier or harder for ordinary people to challenge?
In 2024, Pennsylvania's Office of State Inspector General finished a report on how the state investigates elder abuse. That report had never been made public. Governor John Shapiro's office calls it confidential, and stayed confidential for more than 2 years now. All Pennsylvania governors release comparable Inspector General frames. This administration's own office confirmed that when Spotlight PA asked. So here's the question. What's in a report that a governor's office would rather keep sealed than let the public or the agency it's about see it? This isn't the only sign of trouble inside Pennsylvania's other protection system. A separate 2025 investigation found persistent documenting of failures in how the state protects older adults. Failures Spotlight PA called devastating. And in 2024, the state stopped track why seniors died during open abuse and neglect investigations altogether. That's not the same as the withheld report, but it's the same pattern. Less data, less visibility, less to answer for. The honest rival explanation. Pennsylvania's right to know LUD does contain a provision letting agencies withhold investigative records if they choose to. But that provision is optional, not mandatory, and the burden is on the agency to justify it. When Spotlight PA asked the governor's office and the inspector general's office to name the specific section of law requiring this report stay secret, neither one answered. And the law that actually created this inspector general's office says the office, so therefore confidential implies. It gives the office authority to issue public records and requires it to report investigation details and recommendations to the legislature every year. This isn't a case where the law forced silence. It's a case where the office had a public reporting mandate, had a discretionary option to keep its one report private, and pick silence. Then Kerner or Warner say why. What we can say for certain is that nobody outside the governor's office has been allowed to check. The claim is the record is confidential, and the record, no public statute have been shown to require that. And this has an echo. Federal inspectors general have fought this exact fight for years. In 2015, the Justice Department's own legal office ruled that officials can withhold information from the Inspector General at their discretion. The SEC has withheld dozens of its own IG's investigative reports for public release since 2009. The circumstances are different. This is a state aging agency, not federal law enforcement. The mechanism is the same. An oversight report becomes confidential exactly when it's finding to embarrass the people who commissioned it. What's proven is the report exists and has been withheld for 2 years. What's not proven is why. What's unknown is what it actually says. That question doesn't stay in Pennsylvania. It's the same question Washington is asking right now about a different office and a different set of numbers.
The Department of Homeland Security has an office whose entire job is civil rights oversight. Its official report to Congress said the office processed about 4,653 complaints and closed 643 cases in 1 year. Former staff of that office say the real numbers were closer to 6,000 complaints, nearly 9,700 investigations open, and about 9,040 completed. They also say 26 recommendation memos never showed up in the official report at all. That's not a rounding error. That's a different picture of how much oversight was actually happening. The former staff, represented by the Government Accountability Project, say they helped draft an earlier version of this report before the office was effectively gutted in 2025 workforce cuts. DHS disputes the whistleblower's account. That dispute hasn't been independently ruled out. So the honest rival explanation is real. Maybe the discrepancy is the methodology difference, not a cover-up. We're presenting sworn statements filed by the Congressional Record against an agency's on-record denial, not a settled fact. What's not in the dispute, the office that's supposed to watch DHS's civil rights record just went through the kind of cuts that make watching harder. This has an echo, and it's one we just told. Pennsylvania withheld a report. DHS's own former staff say that agency's report doesn't match reality. Different institutions, same mechanism. The body that's supposed to be checked controls what the checkers get to see. What's proven is the discrepancy exists between the official report and the whistleblower's account. What's strongly indicated is the timing lines up with a real reduction in oversight capacity. What's not proven is which set of numbers is accurate, and what's unknown is what Congress will do with the diversion. 2 blindfolds in 1 week. The next one isn't about hiding numbers, it's about a different kind of exception.
Deputy Defense Secretary Steve Feinberg used to run Cerberus Capital Management, a private equity firm worth billions in defense sector holdings. When he took the job, he signed an ethics agreement to divest. Here's the anomaly. That agreement included a deadline. Feinberg said he'd been using Cerberus for accounting and tax services only temporarily, through April 15, 2026, while he found an outside provider. The deadline is gone. In January 2026, Feinberg formally amended his ethics agreement to remove the end date entirely. The relationship now continues indefinitely. This isn't an allegation. It's in his own signed amendment, filed with the Department of Defense's Office of General Counsel and the U.S. Office of Government Ethics. The honest rival explanation tested. Maybe this kind of extension is routine. It isn't. Federal ethics guidance is explicit. When divestiture is the remedy for a conflict, the Office of Government Ethics requires a complete divestiture, not a partial one, and does not allow nominees to negotiate down from that standard. Feinberg's own stated reason for the amendment was that he'd been unable to find a company to provide the services he needed. He offered no further detail on what made those services irreplaceable, and no new end date was set. Cerberus's own spokesperson told ProPublica Feinberg divested his stake and is not involved with the operations of Cerberus in any way, and that the administrative services are unrelated to any investment activities and were pre-approved by DoD and OGE ethics offices. That pre-approval is real, but pre-approving an extension isn't the same as the extension being ordinary. Senator Elizabeth Warren didn't think so either. In June 2026, she sent Feinberg a formal letter stating he reversed his ethics commitment and demanding an explanation. The claim is he's divested. The record shows he's also divested, but with a temporary exception that quietly became a permanent one. And this has an echo, and it belongs to a cluster WikiLeaks hasn't opened before: the exception. Powerful actors receiving options unavailable to ordinary people navigating the same rules. Federal ethics law requires complete divestiture from everyone bound by it. Feinberg negotiated a deadline, missed it, and had it erased rather than enforced. This is a first entry. No prior WikiLeaks case has tested this mechanism before now, a rule that applies in full to everyone quietly softened for one person, on paper, with sign-off from the same offices meant to hold the line. What's proven is the original deadline existed, was missed, and was removed rather than enforced. What's also proven is the standard federal ethics guidance requires complete, not partial, divestiture. What's strongly indicated is this is not routine administrative housekeeping. A sitting U.S. Senator has already called it a reverse commitment. What's not proven is any specific financial benefit Feinberg has received through the extension beyond the services described. And what's still unknown is whether the Department of Defense or OGE will revisit the approval given the Senator's objection. The vertical divide isn't always a payment. Sometimes it's a deadline nobody else gets to miss. That's the ledger for this week.
3 exhibits, different institutions, 1 tested direction. In Pennsylvania, a governor's office withheld its own inspector general's report on elder abuse investigation failures for over 2 years, calling it confidential. But when asked directly, neither the governor's office nor the inspector general's office could name the law requiring that secrecy. The office that produced the report has explicitly statutory authority to publish it. That's apparent upward movement, and its honor is out. At the Department of Homeland Security, the agency's own Civil Rights Oversight Office told Congress one set of numbers. Former staff of that same office say the real numbers were different. Thousands more complaints, hundreds more investigations, dozens of missing recommendation members. DHS disputes their account, and that dispute hasn't been independently settled. That's also apparent upward movement, and it's contested. And at the Pentagon, Deputy Defense Secretary Steve Feinberg agreed to stop using his old firm, Cerberus, for accounting and tax services by a fixed deadline. He missed that deadline. Rather than enforcing it, the agreement was quietly amended to remove the deadline altogether, even though federal ethics guidance calls for complete divestiture, not a partial one. A sitting United States Senator has already called this a reverse commitment. That strongly indicated upward movement, and it's the starkest documented case of the 3. The weekly verdict is contested ground. Every case here shows real information moving away from public view. Every case also has an honest memo we haven't fully closed. But the Pennsylvania report actually says which set of DHS's numbers is accurate and what benefit, if any, Feinberg has drawn from an exception nobody else gets to use. That's the standard, not a hedge. But here's the resistance point. In every one of these cases, someone on the inside made sure the receipt existed anyways. A spotlight PA source at DHS whistleblower willing to put their name on the sworn statement, a signed amendment sitting in a public disclosure database, next to 1,500 others just like it. That's the thing power can't fully close off. Read the ledger, join the Purple People Eater list, and if the evidence ever changes, our verdict changes with it.